William has a super chat asking, hey, are either of us familiar with Peter Zayan? He talks about the value of American bases around the world, you know, Germany, Korea, Japan. I think we have some activities in Africa as well.
South Korea, right?
Yeah, Korea. Obviously big in Iraq right now, you know, or Middle East, right? Qatar and places like that. Is your position that we should just take everything back inside the lower 48 and just not be a player? Because I think I'm not familiar with Zayan's work, William, but I would argue, again, when you're the largest economy in the world and you are a heavily global player, I don't know if I want China and Russia just doing whatever they want. I feel like those bases do provide a deterrence for, you know, kind of any foul play. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not for making any huge drastic changes. So I'm not saying we get rid of those bases. I mean, in fact, we need those bases for refueling for the aircraft carriers, and we need them as a projection of our American power. But, you know, maybe we should have more tougher conversations with those countries that are hosting those bases that are obviously getting economic benefit from our military service personnel staying there, you know, helping their GDP.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no question that Germany benefits from the deterrence that American forces have, you know, in terms of any Russian aggression or anything like that. There's no question that Japan benefits from the deterrence of American troops in Japan against any, you know, kind of crazy actions from China. So I would agree with you that, yeah, you know, everyone should try and pay their fair share. But then the U.S. should also, if we don't get what we want, then, you know, we have alternatives and we could just pull out or we could put them in other countries. But my main argument is that even if they did, like, because we're arguing over should Germany pay 1.5% or 2% of their GDP towards their defense spending, it doesn't change the day-to-day life of struggling people in Middle America who can't pay for healthcare. Their kids, you know, don't have a bright future. They're worried about whether their job is going to be automated away. Like, how does Germany paying more for the bases change that?
No, I agree. So basically, let's just leave it at that. Like, I think that if I was the German government, you know, they've also been really super benefiting economically and politically and just national security from our bases there. You know, we can totally agree with that because all those military people are probably spending a huge amount of money around that whole German area and Japan and South Korea stuff. So let's move on maybe to other things. So
when your point about the media and the protests and the stuff, you're saying there's wall-to-wall coverage of the protests, either the protests on CNN or the riots on Fox News, whichever one you want to prefer to watch.
Sorry, and I also believe this whole coronavirus is fake. Fake.
Now, I had John McAfee on the channel a couple weeks ago. He was making the same argument, but the only people that would benefit from that are probably maybe the media, the news
media,
because they got a great story.
Oh my God. I don't know if they did it on purpose. This whole goes back. Imagine if you were a journalist, you're a 25-year-old journalist, or even you're a 25-year veteran journalist. You're competing with Instagram, Twitch, stupid TikTok, Tinder, Netflix. You got this coronavirus story. You're going to run with it, baby.
Mm-hmm. And that would go on both sides because Fox originally was saying it was a hoax, but then said it was like a huge national, you know, travesty. And then Trump said he was a wartime president.
You know, when I look back at that Fox News, I think they had it right. And then because of political correctness and just the whole swell of they didn't want to stick with their bet. Then they went, flipped the other way. I think they would have been better off if they just stick with it. That was a hoax. In fact, they were joking about, we're not afraid of the coronavirus. It's no big deal. Actually, here's the thing. Can we do some deep dive? Because you're the data person, you're the nerds. Can you tell me right now, what is the number of deaths in the U.S. from the flu season this year versus last year? Because I'm going to guarantee you that the stupid media has lumped all the flu deaths into COVID-19.
Well, they would have to purposely do that because
okay, but no, can you dig up the flu deaths then? Can you dig up the flu deaths?
I think it's about 40,000. U.S. is about 40,000.
I know 30 to 60,000 is every year. So dig up two things. What was it last year, and what is it this year for flu? Let's see.
All right, let's see if we can find it.
Let's see what these people did to us.
This year will be hard.
Yeah. Exactly.
USA flu deaths 2019 though.
But the flu season, come on, right? Yeah.
Let's see. Here we go. CDC estimates 40 to 56,000. But that's through April 2020. So that the COVID deaths may actually be masked. But we know for sure that there's over 100,000 American COVID deaths. And it's probably more than that.
100,000 deaths of people that had COVID, maybe not killed by COVID, maybe killed by something else.
Okay. So let's back up a second. Someone asked a question saying that you were a very big believer that this was a global pandemic.
I'm still kind of paranoid. I walk around with a mask. I'm still not taking any chances, but I believe that we're going to wake up 2 years from now, and this was another stupid Saddam Hussein weapons of mass destruction thing. Yeah.
So then that's a conspiracy not just on the Democrats and the media side; it's also on the president too.
I don't know whose conspiracy this is. I'm not pointing fingers right now, but I'm just looking at some of the data that's coming through. I mean, it's like, look, it's 100,000 deaths, and but mainly most of the deaths, if you look at 90 or 80%, are the people over 65 or over 70. And if you actually look at those people that died, maybe they also had pre-existing conditions. Maybe they were obese. Maybe they had other diseases. Maybe they would have died anyways this year.
I'm pretty sure, like I'm coming to you live from Switzerland, just a couple hour drive from Italy. I think the Italians would disagree that it's the same number as the flu. I mean, they literally were running out of space in their morgues. They had to get like refrigerator trucks. That's not normal in the flu season.
Well, like
if you look at
two times flu.
So what we could really do, and we don't have the data yet because we need to let this year play out, is we need to look at the number of deaths in a country, because then we don't have to worry about, did they do the test? Did they report? Did they not report? Surely you would agree that if more people
look at
died,
the excess deaths.
Yeah, look at a chart of the deaths per year.
Yeah, like if, for example,
deaths in the U.S. spiked in 2020 in Italy.
You can't use total deaths. You can't use total deaths because other deaths would have gone down. Traffic accidents would have gone down. Hit and runs would have gone down. I think crime actually went down. So like deaths.
But then you're making my point, because if there's a spike, it would even be more pronounced because there was no traffic during the lockdown.
I don't think you're going to see a spike.
But would we agree that if total deaths went up, then COVID probably contributed to it?
Okay, yeah.
And in your theory, total deaths would be flat or down.
Okay, no, but you have to be careful also. Now word's coming out is people have been delaying their cancer treatments or stuff like that. So how do you cancel that? How do you attribute that? And also from the lockdown, maybe people suicide because they go crazy. So it's very, I think if you're going to go data, you got to go real data to COVID deaths. Otherwise you have too many factors like that screwing up the analysis.
If you only do COVID deaths, then you're limited by testing, and we don't have sufficient testing.
Sorry.
So, but your point is that you think the media, oddly enough,
we agree.
We kind of agree. Here's my theory.
Yes.
That this thing came out and it looked pretty scary in China. And then it was spreading really fast. And we know the sort of reproduction rate of the virus was way higher than the flu. But what we didn't know was the fatality rate, right? Because it was too early. And so we took the position that, or many people took the position that, well, if I don't know the mortality rate, but I know that there are people going, like morgues are filling up in Italy, and these nursing homes are having like massive death rates, then I'd rather be wrong and be too conservative than to just like, do too little. Because imagine if the death rate really were 10%. And obviously,
that's what. That's what.
A million people dying.
That's what those epidemiologists, those scientists that study all that stuff, they were probably erring on the side of caution or erring on the side of like, okay, let's just, warn the people so that they can do something. Because if it turned out to be like it is right now, which is less deadly, then, they can't get blamed. But if it was worse and they didn't warn us, then they're going to get blamed.
Yeah. I mean, so I think what happened early on was there was a range in terms of potential death rate, 1 to 10%. They didn't know. They weren't getting probably a lot of reliable data from China. The data that they were getting from Italy, Rudolph makes a good point. There were a lot of older people in Italy. So that probably explains, like, I think the reality is that this disease does attack older people with other pre-existing conditions. However, let me finish. So we took the position of, okay, we don't know. All we know is it's spreading like crazy. Italy's like melting down. Their hospitals, like, they're frantic. So let's lock it down, right? That was the pro-lockdown camp. But what happened now is that actually we're realizing that, yes, it does spread, but the mortality rate is not 10%. It's much less, maybe 1%. Who knows?
I think it's less than 1%.
Maybe.
Less than.
Maybe. Yeah. Certainly, like, and here's the funny thing that I think is where our politics are clouding us. I think everybody is dug in. So the super anti-Trump progressives, they are not willing to admit that, oh, we probably overcorrected. And then you've got the sort of pro super MAGA, everything is a hoax camp, who don't want to admit, no, it is a real thing. It is killing lots of older people and it's spreading like, crazy. Both statements can be true. Like, you could have something that's real, but is not necessarily like the end of days. But
so here's
the middle ground.
Here's where the MAGA peak comes from. I mean, I believe the WHO did drop the ball. I mean, I believe that Trump was right to shut down travel from China, and probably in hindsight, he should have shut down travel from Europe. And probably what we should have did was, look, I think we already knew in January and February for sure that it was affecting the older people more. I think there was news coming out that was like, if you're obese and older, you're going to be. In fact, we talked about it in our family chat. You were telling me not to go out because I'm in a higher risk group than the girls that I was dating that are 25 years old or something like that, right? So why didn't we lock down everyone older than a certain age? Because the reason why we wouldn't do that as America is we had this stupid civil liberty shit. So, we just locked down everyone.
No,
well, we should have just.
I actually think we didn't know. It was sort of the fog of war. And I also think, and here's where I will lay some of this at the feet of Trump.
Oh, no.
Because
don't do that.
He was so insistent on saying this is nothing. It's going to go away as the spring.
In April,
yeah. Everybody.
He was right.
Well, not necessarily, because we don't know. Like, the same way you're saying,
he was off by a month. He was off by a month because basically, I think by May, pretty much it was over. And when are you guys having all these crazy protests out there? All these thousands of people.
Hold on a second. You cannot say, look, this was nothing when the whole country locked down. Therefore, we shouldn't have locked down, because you don't know what would happen had we not locked down.
You do know. You take a look at what happened to the Diamond Princess. So what's the fatality rate and the death rate of the Diamond Princess?
Oh, it was off the charts.
Can you pull it up?
Single-digit percent. Yeah.
Just pull it up for me. Let me know. Do it now.
All right, Diamond.
Because for those who don't know, the Diamond Princess was a freaking petri dish for the coronavirus, and they were in lockdown, but locked down with all sick people off the coast of Japan. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that is the perfect study of, well, let's just say we infected everyone and see what the death rate there.
All right.
Could you track the death rate?
Yeah. Hold on, I'm looking it up, dude.
And it's also very old people. It's very old people too. People that take cruises in general.
Yeah. So there were
Look at my dogs.
all of the passengers and crew. There were 3,711 passengers.
Okay.
And then let's see how many deaths there were.
Yeah.
There were 712 patients, so about 20% got the infection. And where is the deaths?
So again, this is a situation where the ventilation system's all connected. Basically high chance of getting infected if you were on that boat.
Yeah, I'm not seeing. So we got 3,700 people. Let's see. How many people died on Diamond?
MAGA.
Oh no, let's see.
MAGA.
It looks like 14 of them died, right?
So little.
14
out of 700.
No, out of 3,000.
Yeah. There you
so
go.
Let me get to my point that I was trying to make, which is actually, I think you're agreeing with. Because Trump took the position that this whole thing was a hoax and was unwilling to even acknowledge the transmission rates and basically said, oh, it's just on this one ship, he lost all credibility. He wasn't able to actually help the country find a middle ground. In fact, when he was refusing to acknowledge that people needed ventilators or that people needed testing, it made it so that since he has no credibility, anything he said, even if he said something reasonable, it wasn't going to land. And that's where you want the president to be able to unify a country. He cannot just speak to one half of the country. Right?
Well, I don't think the coronavirus doesn't. I mean, I know that we're dug in terms of the thing. And I'm not dug in because I totally believed in the coronavirus up until a few days ago. I was MAGA, 100% red blood American MAGA, but I believed in the coronavirus. But now I'm looking at it like, oh my God, we're going to look back and look like a bunch of idiots. It's like the biggest April Fools on the whole world.
And so whose job is it? If there's anyone's job in America.
God, we shut down the whole country. We didn't even shut down the country during the Spanish flu.
So if there's anyone in America who should have risen to the occasion and tried to find the middle ground and lead with data and science and logic, who should have done that?
The president and the coronavirus task force. Yeah. But again, I think the president was right. I think that
he was doing daily briefings and he never said what you said.
I think the president was right. He just didn't stick to his guns and he didn't provide the data to go with it, unfortunately. Maybe they should have said
provide the data. You have to have
maybe
say things.
How soon was this analysis from the Diamond Princess available? Probably it was even available before we had the damn lockdown. When was the Diamond Princess? When was the timeline?
A long time ago. Yeah. Diamond Princess, January 20th.
Exactly. We should have said, look at the Diamond Princess. That's the worst case scenario to happen to our American cities. This is like a petri dish, a test case. We will not lock down. This is a hoax by the left-wing liberal media. And I, as your president, can prove to you that the death rate is very marginal and just going to be a little bit higher than the flu.
Well, so basically you're advocating for Angela Merkel's position. Remember when I was telling you that Merkel was giving a speech on this and you told me that you didn't like her?
I hate the Merkel. You know that.
Right. But you know what Merkel said?
What did Merkel say?
Merkel said
I don't speak German, so you have to like
That's
translate
fine.
it for me.
That's fine. I'll give you two in English. She said, look, most of you are going to get it. A percentage of you are going to die. We're going to mitigate it by having separation. We're going to slow it down by shutting down like crowds and things. But this is just like how you deal with it. And it wasn't this kind of like black or white, like everyone's going to die or it's less than the flu. She was like, the mortality rate's going to be higher than the flu. It transmits more. We'll do what we can. Here's the plan.
You know,
But
that sounds
never
good because
she never used the word fake news. She never said the media is the enemy of the people.
Oh,
she never
my God.
said, she never called like Governor Inslee a loser. You know, like this is where when you're the president and you're unable to find the third way for a country, it doesn't serve the United States people. Like we as Americans don't want a president just to be in a boxing match with the other half of the country every day. How does that get us any progress?
You know, when I watch, again, I don't believe in the mainstream media. I'm seeing a lot of polls that we're going to lose the election. But then my MAGA friends remind me that you just have to look at the election night people from MSNBC and CNN and then just be happy because they were predicting 98% chance that Clinton was going to win. And so I'm just hoping that the media right now is fooling us with the polls. And I hope that Trump and Pence are reelected for another 4 more great years.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I have to jump to the next guest, Peter.
Oh, no.
I've got Sammy Ravello, who's running for Congress, who's an ex-police officer in the NYPD. And so we're going to talk about what's the difference between a protester, a rioter, and a looter. But before we get into that and say goodbye to you, what I find shocking is that I think we both agreed that Trump was put to a test and he failed it because he wasn't able to speak with data and logic and unify the country. And we both agreed that he and that daily task force briefing was a waste of time because clearly we probably overreacted, right? And we probably paid a lot for that. And now we're trillions of dollars in debt, more debt than we were, right? And yet you ended by saying, therefore, I really hope Trump is reelected. I don't connect those two things don't go together for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hindsight is 2020. We can always debate, whether we would have done things differently, but he was under tremendous pressure. I mean, the whole media maelstrom was saying that this was going to be like the Black Plague, Spanish flu. And, I'm sad that he didn't hold to his guns and he didn't maybe dug out that analysis on the Diamond Princess, which we just showed to the audience today.
Yeah, I think that underscores he's not big into data. It's well known, reported over and over from former people who work with him that he doesn't read the briefing docs. He doesn't look at the charts. He really only pays attention when his name is mentioned in those briefings. So, but you still look, we're going to have to get you back on the show, Peter. I'm so sorry. We had to get Sammy on because he's running for office. We want to make sure he gets a chance. And so everybody who's listening, don't forget to like and share this interview. If you think that it was entertaining or useful in some way. I mean, basically, even though we have the same parents, we're very different people. If you wanted to catch the Sammy interview, it'll be starting on a new stream in a couple of minutes. With that, I think we're going to have to say goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye.